Alrighty, friends, welcome back to another Chase Stories chat. I have my friend Mike DePinto here with me. Mike, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Mike and I met randomly in a hostel in Cartagena, Colombia about 3 years ago, where I think the majority of this hostel was from California, either from the Bay Area or from, I think there was about 6 of us in this hostel from California. So the Bay Area and California runs strong in Colombia too.
Guess so.
Yeah. Before we start, Mike, we're starting off with the cheers. I've got my White Claw. I saw you got your beer ready.
Yep.
Crack open this one. Cheers, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Appreciate you joining today.
Of course.
And we're starting off with a really hard question for you, and I've been doing this for everybody. Are you familiar with the red panda?
No.
No?
Like the animal? I mean, I've seen
the
it.
Animal. My question is, if you've seen the animal, is it a raccoon or a panda?
Well, that's a good question. I think it's a mix, right? Like
hey, I don't know.
A raccoon and a panda, just they loved each other very much, and that was the result.
I like that answer. I don't know. That's why I asked everybody.
There you go.
The other time, I'll save this for another one too. But the question was either the red panda or what's a platypus? Is it a duck or a beaver?
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
Mike, can you give us a little bit of background about who you are, where you're from, and what you do?
Yeah. So I am Mike. I'm from California, as you said. I'm from San Diego. And I went to school for civil engineering. And when I graduated, I worked for a bit in civil engineering, just in like a private company, a couple private companies in San Diego and the Bay Area and around California. And just, it wasn't really what I was looking to do. It didn't really fulfill me at all. So I ended up trying to work in international development. So first I left my job because I was trying to get into it, and it's pretty hard without any experience to get into that field. So I left my job to go teach English in Ecuador, and that's actually when we met. I was on my way to Ecuador.
You were traveling around.
Yeah. So I stopped in Colombia first, as just because my buddy was teaching English there, and I just thought it'd be a cool trip and get to check out Colombia. So then I taught English in Ecuador for about 6 months, and then I came home and was looking for jobs. I was doing a little bit of work online for another civil engineering company in California. But finally I found this position with the Red Cross, working on the island of St. Martin, helping to repair houses from the Hurricane Irma, which was about the same time as Hurricane Maria, which hit Puerto Rico. They were within like 2 weeks of each other, which is crazy. 2 massive Category 5 hurricanes. And so, for the past 2 years, wow, that's crazy. I've been here on and off, working on that program.
Were you there when the hurricane happened?
No. I think it hit when I was in Ecuador, actually, because it was 2017, and I got here in July of 2018.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, I remember you telling me about the civil engineering thing, but I didn't know about the international development.
Yeah. That's since we met, that's a newer development.
Yeah. Could you talk a little bit about that process of you working in civil engineering and kind of realizing that it wasn't fulfilling you, and how that went about? Did you feel any regret deciding or realizing that, this wasn't what I want to do, even though you might have gone to school for it, and, just sort of your thoughts behind all of it?
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely no regret to hit that first. Like, I'm still using my civil engineering degree because we're repairing houses. So I'm just using it in a different way. Yeah. Everyone I work with is either an engineer or an architect. That's in my level of the program. We work with a lot of local people as well, but I basically, when I was in college, I joined a club called Engineers Without Borders, which is a really cool club. And you know, it's I'm sure everyone's heard of Doctors Without Borders. It's similar to that, but it's more geared towards engineers, obviously, and students. It's very student oriented. So it was a cool club where we got to plan projects to do in developing countries around the world as students out of college. With you know, we had some advisors and stuff, but it was still totally up to us. It wasn't like we were being told what to do. I joined when the club was, the club was older, but we started a new team. So we had already had a team in Thailand, a team in Thailand, a team in Nicaragua, and a team in India. And then when I joined my team, we didn't even have a location yet. So we were looking for a location, and we found, we decided to go with Malawi in Southern Africa. Which was really cool. And I got to lead one of the first trips there. And it was an amazing experience. And I think that's what really did it for me, what made me want to do that. So, you know, after I graduated, I applied to all sorts of jobs. I think like everyone does when they graduate. Of course. And, you know, I didn't hear anything back from the more international stuff I wanted to do, but I started to get responses from local stuff. So I did a few local jobs. Like I said, I think I worked about 2 years in construction and like construction management and civil engineering companies. And then, so I just, you know, most of that work is sitting at a desk on a computer all day, you know, working for wealthy companies or wealthy people, making their, you know, offices or their house look nicer or, you know, something like that. And just, I don't know, it wasn't very fulfilling. Like, I don't think there's a specific moment. It's just, you know, 2 years of that, not really doing anything that you find that interesting or fulfilling, and you know, looking for other things. And pretty much that whole time I was applying for other jobs. Like the international stuff is hard, and that's when I ended up quitting and going to Ecuador to teach English. Like, it was a volunteer. It was not a job, a volunteer position for 6 months, and it was really cool. But I think it helped me get into the line of work I'm in now. Is you need some sort of experience.
Yeah, for sure. Growing up, did you were you really exposed to or worked with, you know, either, like, you know how some people do service trips to like third world countries or whatever? Did you do stuff like that, or was this something that you sort of figured out after, you know, working those couple of years at those different jobs and realizing this isn't for me, I want to do something sort of bigger than myself and really, you know, make an impact?
I didn't do those kind of trips at all, really. I worked a little bit, like me and my dad sometimes would volunteer with Habitat for Humanity. And like, but that's very local. We'd help build houses in San Diego. For low-income communities and families, which was cool. But that's the closest I ever got to that. Before joining Engineers Without Borders, I'd only been out of the country twice. Once to Canada and once to Italy, where I have family, to visit family there. And those are the only 2 times before that. So that was you know, quite an eye-opening experience for me. And for me, that's what really did it. That trip to Malawi and working with Engineers Without Borders was really what triggered that that travel bug and that passion for this kind of work.
Yeah, totally. How was your experience teaching in Ecuador? Because you said you got the travel bug, and then I mean, you're not fluent in Spanish, are you?
No, I got a lot better in Ecuador. Before, when I went to Ecuador, like when we met in Colombia, I had very little Spanish. You know, a few years of high school Spanish in the U.S. in California. It wasn't very good schooling, but then living in Ecuador for 6 months, I lived with a host family for the first couple of weeks, which was cool. And then they gave us classes for a couple of weeks as well. And that helped a lot. I'm still definitely not fluent, but I'm, you know, I can use it for work. I can use it to get around. So that's pretty helpful.
Hmm. Did you experience any culture shock in living there? I mean, 6 months is a pretty, it's a pretty significant amount of time. Um,
Definitely.
yeah. Did you have any, what would I say, withdrawals from, not being outside the U.S.?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, one thing that helped is everyone in the program, because it was all volunteers, were American, and we were all living in a house together. So that definitely lessened that aspect. But I mean, it still definitely happens. You're, far from home, far from your friends and family. I mean, you make friends with the people you work with and live with, and people there. But yeah, you definitely. I think for me, that's the biggest thing is being far from friends and family.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely the culture shock. We're like living with a host family for a couple of weeks was pretty intense.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience, but it was quite intense. And like they had, two little kids, like I think like 8 and 10 or something, and and yeah, it was very interesting living there. I'm trying to think of a good example or story.
Were you like in rural Ecuador, or was it more in the city?
It was kind of, I guess the closest thing you could say is a suburb. It was outside of the capital city of Quito. But like, yeah, like just, so Quito's in this valley, this big valley with two mountains on each side. And so it was just over one of the mountains on the other side there. So it's like, 45 minutes by bus. It's pretty close. But yeah, I'd say it's a bit more of a suburb. So kind of in between. It wasn't the super rural part that, you can see sometimes. That would have definitely been more of a culture shock. Like,
Yeah.
you'd still go to there was a mall and a supermarket, and like, so it wasn't that bad.
Man, I thought you were going to be milking the cows for milk or whatever, making cheese. Your boy churning the butter.
I wish that would have been amazing.
Oh man, that's cool though. I mean, I feel I mean, it takes a certain person, and a lot of you got to be brave and willing to put yourself out there to move to a country that's South America is a lot. I feel, depending on where you go, but it's pretty different than the U.S., especially the Bay Area or California. And not being able to, it's not your first language. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a lot of personal growth during that time for you. I feel like whenever somebody pushes themselves out of their comfort zone, you're growing in some shape or form. And like you said, it's helped you. I mean, now you have this job there in St. Martin.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it helped a lot. It was the first time I lived entirely like on my own, away from friends and family. I always, like, in college I lived with friends, and afterwards I lived with friends and family, and yeah, so it's definitely a big change. And yeah, having to learn Spanish kind of on the fly while you're trying to communicate with people, and yeah, just I think everything about it. Also, just teaching was really cool. I never taught in that sense before. Yeah, so that was a cool experience as well.
What were you teaching?
English.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was interesting. We had all different groups. So we had kids come in teaching kids. We had adults. We had teachers. We had English teachers, because there were local Ecuadorians that would teach English in elementary school. So we were teaching them English so they could teach their kids. I worked with, that was really cool too. I got to work with the military. They were guys training to become UN peacekeepers. And to become a UN peacekeeper, you need to speak English. So they used us to help teach them English. And yeah, that was really cool to work with those guys. And at the end of their training, they do like a mock deployment for a week in this really beautiful city right on the beach, or more of a town with a military base right on the beach in Ecuador. And so they flew us in one of those military cargo planes from Quito all the way over there. And then for a week, we were just basically pretending we were in Middle Eastern country. The way they portrayed a Middle Eastern country might not be the most PC, but it was a cool experience. And like, because I obviously am a fluent English speaker and we're trying to get them to speak English, they had me be all these different people. Like at one point I'm representing someone from the UN. At one point I'm representing press. And like the trainers, the guys in charge were telling me like, just yell at them. They need to know, they need to practice, just yell at them. So it was a lot of fun. I just got to be screaming at these guys in English that are like, I don't know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good time.
And those have been intense going in that airplane.
Yeah, it was cool. It was different.
Oh, I'm sure. And then from there, you said you went. Did you come back after?
Yeah. So after I finished there, I went back to California and started looking for jobs again. I got something again online for a local engineering company, just kind of helping out, like part-time job, then I just applied to a bunch of places and finally heard back from this one. I think I applied. I got a interview the next week, and then 2 weeks later, I was on the island,
Wow.
In the Netherlands, because technically I work for the Netherlands Red Cross, because this island is split between two countries. The southern half is sorry, a little bit of an explanation. It used to be part of the Netherlands. Now it's independent. But it's still part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, kind of like Canada or Australia, or part of the Commonwealth of the UK, kind of similar to that. So it's independent, but it's still very close with the Netherlands. So yeah, I'm technically working for the Netherlands Red Cross. So I went there for a week first, and then they sent me here after training.
Yeah.
So it was pretty quick.
Yeah, that's a super quick turnaround.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
So you said like right after the hurricane, that's when you went?
Yeah, not quite right after, because it was in September of 2017, and I got here in July of 2018. So not quite a year, but close to it. But yeah, the way these programs tend to work, and this one had some problems starting up, so it was kind of slow, but you usually do like immediate recovery for the first 3 months. So that's things like food, water, tarps, things like that, to just, keep people alive. And then after that 3 months, then you start out doing more of a long-term recovery program, like this, where you start rebuilding houses and trying to get jobs back and things like that.
Yeah. How has that experience been? Because I mean, I can't even imagine what it's like, and being in a third world country and having to restart from the ground up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's also interesting here too, because before the hurricane, it's pretty developed. It was a huge tourist hub. It's the biggest deep water port in the Caribbean, so all of the cruise ships come through here. There's a very large airport, so lots of planes land. So there were lots of tourists before the hurricane. So before the hurricane, it was decently well off. But once the hurricane hit, tourists stopped coming. A lot of the hotels and bars and whatever tourist attractions were damaged or destroyed. So just a ton of people lost their jobs, and the economy was like 90-something% tourism based.
Wow, yeah.
So without tourism dropped to like 20% of what it was before. So that just devastated the economy here. So yeah, it's quite interesting. So like when I first got here, there were tons of houses and buildings and things just still destroyed, sitting there almost a year later.
Wow.
Not only not repaired, but not even cleaned up. And yeah, that was interesting. It was almost like some parts were still nice and fine, but some parts you'd go to were almost like you'd see in a post-apocalyptic movie. It was weird. Like I have this one picture. I think I actually deleted it. I couldn't find it the other day, and I was very upset. But I have this one picture. We went to this beautiful beach, like beautiful tropical paradise beach, in the Caribbean, on this island, and I have my two friends laying on their towels on the beach, sunbathing, some palm trees in the background, and then just a completely collapsed building behind them.
Wow.
Like a large concrete building just collapsed. It's weird. Like,
yeah, that's so strange.
Yeah. And even now, 3 years later, there's still you still see it. You still see damaged buildings. I mean, we're still here working, so we're still helping repair roofs and, trying to get people back to where they were before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it affect you seeing those kinds of buildings, seeing the economy, getting hit so hard? And obviously, I'm sure it's had huge impact on the people there, especially probably the ones that are most, impoverished. It's probably hit them the most.
Mm-hmm.
Does that affect you? Has there been, I don't know. I feel like for me, when I've gone to the Dominican Republic, you see the extreme wealth, and then you see the extreme poverty, and it's kind of hard to see the in between. And especially the first time I went, it really hit me hard. But there is at times after being around something, you kind of become desensitized to it.
Yeah.
How you felt about that, especially when you first got there and now.
Yeah, that's very perceptive. Yeah, for sure. When I first got here, it's super hard to see, and it's very intense. And after a while, you do get used to it. Not out of any, I don't know. It's not malice, or it's not I think indifference. It's more just you have to, when you're going out and seeing it every day. You kind of have to get used to it, and yeah, I think the roughest part of that is you have to say no to some people. Our program, you can't just accept everybody. We don't have the money, the time, or the expertise. We're rebuilding houses, but it's mostly focused on repair. So a house that's totally destroyed, we can't really do anything for, because they need to totally rebuild. And telling that to someone that's maybe in a tent or a few tarps in a half destroyed building is pretty rough. But it's the way it has to go sometimes, because you want to help as many people as possible, and sadly you can't help everybody.
Mm-hmm. How does that?
Yeah, certainly it affects you.
Yeah, I don't think I'd be cut out to be able to sing.
You would. It takes a bit. You get used to it, though.
What's the process for that, and deciding whose houses you rebuild, or what buildings you help rebuild and whatnot?
Yeah. So there's a few things. One, as I said, the island's split between two sides, two countries. So we're only allowed to work on the Dutch side. The French side is the other side. It's actually a part of France, so the French government has to work on that side. So that's the first thing. And then to get more specific, we work in certain areas. So we work in different neighborhoods. When the hurricane first happened, basically there was a meeting between the government and different organizations like the Red Cross and like others. That they basically split up the island and said, okay, you guys work here, you guys work here. And so at first we had 9 districts we were working in. Mm-hmm. And so we're on our second program now. So that was the first program. We worked in those 9 districts. We gave material to about 1,000 houses in that, a little over 1,000 houses. And basically the way that one worked was more general. People would sign up, they'd send their names in, and then we'd go check their house. And if it was damaged, but not so damaged that it couldn't be repaired, then we'd help them pretty much. It's pretty straightforward. So then, we finished that program in the end of last year. And then this year we started a new program. We're working in different areas, but now it's a little different. Instead of people registering, we go out. I've been getting to use the drone, which has been really cool. And we map the area with the drone. And then we have some people at headquarters that look at the maps and find the damaged houses and mark them on the map. And so then we go ourselves and check, is it damaged? Is it something we can help? Do people still live there? It's 3 years later, so a lot of places are just long abandoned, and no one lives there. So then we do that, and if it fits all our criteria, then we talk to them. We do a little questionnaire with them how much money they're making, if they have kids living in the house, if they're older, if they're healthy, things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much how we take them in. And then this program's a little different. Last program, we mostly just gave material. But we realized during that a lot of people don't have the capacity to rebuild themselves. And so at the end of last program, we started making some construction teams that could go help them. And so they did about 150, 160 houses, the construction team, out of a little over 1,000. So like, yeah, not that much of them, but this program, we're only doing construction teams. So every house that we give material to also gets someone to build. So it's a lot less houses this time. We're going for 200. But yeah, it's more, I think, more effective of a program.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. And Mike, do you see yourself doing, like, do you feel international development, that's what you want to do?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think so. I really do enjoy it. It's very, as I was saying, the stuff at home wasn't very fulfilling. This is really, like, it can be really hard and annoying, and like any other job, it can suck sometimes. But at the end of the day, you're doing something that's helping people, and I enjoy it. I think I definitely would like to keep going in at least something similar to this.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's super cool. That the way that you're saying, like, it fulfills you, and that's how it's pushing you forward even during the tough times. So that you're like giving back, and that you're doing something that has meaning, which I think a lot of people are struggling to find nowadays.
Yeah, I think so. I think that can be a big problem with a lot of modern day, especially office jobs.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Tough.
And I talked with one of my friends yesterday, and we were bringing this up. He worked at a tech job for a while, and more not because he enjoyed it, but more because of the status that comes with being in a tech. And people would start questioning, like, they don't question you, like, oh, you do tech, cool, like, so do I. And it's kind of the thing right now. And he was at one point kind of scared to get out of it because of what people would say. He kind of felt like he put a lot of weight on himself to get out of it. But I think it's super cool that you're like, this is what I want to do, and you went out and did it, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's been cool so far. But yeah, I definitely think, like, to what you're saying about your friend, like, yeah, it can be hard, especially if it's like a well-paying job.
Yeah,
like tech usually is, and engineering is as well. If you have a well-paying, steady job and you leave that to do something else, I think it can definitely throw some people off. Like, why would you leave that job? That was the perfect job. Like,
yeah,
it's not all about money. So
totally. And I'm hoping that through these talks, people kind of realize that at the end of the day, it's not all about money, because there's gonna come a point where you just realize that it's more draining to do something that you don't love, and even though you're making more money, than it is to put your time and effort into a passion that's really fulfilling you. Because when it's fulfilling you, essentially, like, you're putting in, but you're also getting a lot more back in terms of just, like, just mentally and spiritually, whatever it is. Like, it's almost like a cycle. You're putting in and you're getting back a lot. Meanwhile, a job where you're not enjoying it, you're just putting in a lot. And I mean, you might be getting the paycheck, but at the end of the day, are you happy?
Yeah.
And
that's a good point.
And we were talking too, like, we met 3 years ago, and it kind of went in a blink of an eye. And time goes by quick. And if you're not doing what you love, and you're spending your time doing something you don't, time's going to go by in a blink of an eye. And that's the one thing, you don't get time back.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
I mean, I'm hoping that people can kind of realize these talks, like, hey, do what you want to do, because you're going to look back one day and be like, oh shoot, I should have done this. Oh man, I wish I had done this. And at least for me, I don't, one of my biggest fears is having regret at the end of the day. And so, I don't know, that's my little tangent.
No, I'm with you, man. Yeah, it's definitely, Yeah, I think, and also like one thing I noticed when working at an office job is the days just blend together, so that
Oh yeah.
time speeding up thing was so much worse. When you're doing something you enjoy, time still goes quick, but you're at least enjoying it, and I think maybe it's just your brain remembers it better, and that's why it feels slower. But it feels like a more memorable time of your life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mike, what's your living situation? So you live on an island. Are there any fun critters on that island that get into your place?
Not fun. No, I mean, really, mostly the usual, like mosquitoes, always. There's some flies, cockroaches sometimes. That's about all that get into my apartment. But there's some interesting stuff on the island, some cool spiders, and apparently people keep telling me this. I've been here for 2 years and I've never seen them. There's apparently monkeys in the like mountains of the island, like, and apparently you can find them. But I've gone on hikes there. I've driven through there. I've never seen them. I'm so mad. Like, I want to see these monkeys.
Hopefully, I mean, who knows? Do you have like a timeline for how long you're going to be there?
Yeah, so actually, my contract was supposed to end at the end of this month, but because of COVID and because of a couple other things, I'm changing job positions. Actually, I extended till the end of November now, so I'll be here for another 6 months or so.
Cool, awesome.
Yeah,
good for you. Let's talk a bit about traveling, because you've done a bit of traveling now.
Yeah.
We can. So when we were in Colombia, you said you were with one of your friends?
So not exactly. One of my friends was teaching English in Colombia, but he was not in Cartagena. He was in a place called Pereira, Colombia, and it's kind of in the center of Colombia, and that's where he was teaching. So I went to Cartagena first and hung out there for a few days, and then I went and visited him, and then I went to Ecuador.
Nice. So what was your experience? You were on your own for those first couple days.
Yeah.
What was your experience? Being in a hostel. Had you done a hostel stuff before?
Yeah, but never by myself. I'd always been with friends.
How was that experience traveling on your own?
Actually, really great. Yeah, I was a little nervous before doing it because I traveled a lot, but usually with people. And like, or maybe I'd fly by myself, but I'd meet someone where I was going, like a friend who was already there. So that was, I think, my first real experience traveling by myself, and it was awesome. I mean, I met so many cool people in that hostel, like you, and like, half of them were Californians, but
seriously, I couldn't believe it.
That's so weird. Like everyone was like, "Where are you from?" "Oh, California." "What? Why?"
Yeah,
we're all from California. But that was a really cool trip, and really, I think, gave me the confidence to travel alone more. And yeah, it's been great. I really enjoy it.
Yeah. I always tell people this story when we were there. I don't know if you were with us that night, but my friend Rachel and I, she was one of the people I was traveling with.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So she and I were on the top of the hostel where they had a little bar, and I was wearing this shirt. It's one of the shirts is like a Bay Area brand. And these three girls, essentially, I felt like I got attacked and mobbed. They surround me. They're like, "Are you from the Bay Area?" What? I don't know. I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And they're like, we just like started talking. I'm like, I mean, what are the odds? East Bay. I'm like, okay. I'm from East Palo Alto. They're from like the Berkeley area, and I'm like,
yeah.
Of all places to find a bunch of people from Berkeley and in the East Bay, in the middle of Cartagena.
Yeah, that was very strange.
Yeah,
cool though. It was a nice vibe.
it was. I mean, for anybody who is on the fence about traveling and traveling alone, I will always tell them do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you talked about how it gave you the confidence to travel alone. I know for me, it just traveling alone as well gave me not only the confidence to travel alone, but just to be in situations where you know, I may not know anybody, but I can still be comfortable and still, you know, make connections or try to make connections. Um, and yeah, you pushing that comfort zone. I feel like, you know, traveling alone has really done that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a cool thing too, especially in like hostels. It's
Mhm.
so easy to meet people that it you know, it feels like almost the, you know, first semester of college when you're in the dorms and just everyone's out and talking to each other. And yeah, it kind of reminds you that you can do that in your everyday life. It doesn't have to be at a hostel. Like people in general are pretty chill. Like you can just go up and talk to them. It's fine.
Yeah, I know. I feel like if you're not traveling alone or like in the hostel, you kind of get the sense like everybody's very guarded.
Hmm.
It's hard to go to, but I feel like once you, in a sense, if you put your guard down and are vulnerable and are open to it, people are much more receptive, even in everyday life and not in the hostels.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's cool. I definitely it gives you a new perspective a bit, you know, because I think yeah, like you're saying, you get used to both traveling and just at home normally. Like you know, you have like this is my group of friends, and that's who I talk to, and
Yeah,
then you
exactly.
remember like there's you know there's a whole world out there. You can talk to anyone. You can go places, see things. Like there's so much more you can experience if you just put yourself out there.
Oh, totally. And do you recommend traveling to Colombia?
Yeah, absolutely. It like when people say, "Oh, it's you know, it's dangerous, it's scary." Like, no, no, no. That was maybe the '90s. Now it's so cool. Like,
I know. Oh man, I mean, I have, so my grandma is from Cali,
mhm,
Colombia. So I went there for a couple days, and then after that, I flew up to the coast to Cartagena,
mhm.
and that was my first time actually going to Colombia, and meeting a lot of my family, which was super cool to do. But you know, I'd never been, and I definitely want to go back. I'm trying to find the time to do it because it's so beautiful. You've got coast, you've got mountains,
Yeah,
you've
they got everything, man.
got salsa, you've got aguardiente. Did you have aguardiente?
Yes, yes, I did.
Quite a bit, quite a bit.
That's an experience.
Oh yeah, it's like how would you describe the taste? To me, it was like a,
It's like black licorice. It's
yeah,
like
exactly.
yeah, it's like I guess it's kind of similar to Jaeger, but it's clear.
Yeah,
Uh, and like not as good, not as good. Like
yeah, not as good.
not as sweet, not as drinkable, but it's good. It's a good drink.
Yeah, it is. Mike, do you have a favorite travel story?
Ooh, yeah. I have a few. I think,
Doesn't have to be from Colombia.
yeah, yeah. I'm trying to think. I have a few good ones. I like some of my favorite countries were Colombia,
Mhm.
Thailand was amazing, and I liked Malawi a lot, but that was more of a work trip than
Yeah.
a than an actual trip. But okay, let's see. A good travel story. I have one. I ran with the bulls in
No
Pamplona in
way.
Spain. Yeah, I did the
How was
running of the
that?
bulls.
Did a bull come close to poking you in up the butthole with their horns?
It depends what you mean by close. No, I can tell the story if you want. So it was pretty crazy. Me and my buddy were in Spain. This was right after I graduated college. So I did the classic, you know, trip to. Well, first I went to Thailand for a few weeks, and then I went to Europe and met up with some friends there. So we went to Spain and we went to like Madrid, Barcelona, both really cool. And then we went to Pamplona, which is where the Running of the Bulls Festival is. And I didn't realize that was happening when we went, like until we already were like planning our trip and thinking about going there. And we looked and like, oh shit, it's that week we're there. Um, so yeah, we go. We were not at all planning to run. We were like, oh, we'll go, you know, watch these idiots run and get destroyed by bulls. But then so the reason for the running of the bulls, the reason that is a tradition is because it's the Festival de San Fermin, so the Saint Fermin, I think you'd say in English.
Yeah.
Uh, um, it's his festival, and they do bullfights. And bullfights in Spain are the real brutal kind where they kill the bulls. They have a matador with a sword and everything. And my friend is a hunter, and he wanted to go see the bullfights. And I was like, I didn't know that much about them. I'd heard a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'll check them out. It's something cultural. And then we go and watch, and it's both extremely brutal and terrible, and also in some way somewhat beautiful. It's hard to explain because it is like really like disturbing, and you know, I love animals. I'm not at all that type of person that's into watching them get hurt. And so basically we're like halfway through watching this, and it's pretty intense, and you know, I'm definitely feeling some emotions. And I turned to my friend and I'm like, you know, we're watching these guys die. We got to give them a chance. I'm running tomorrow with them. I'm like, you don't have to if you don't watch me. He's like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm running. And we're like, okay. So after that, we go back to our hotel, and like, you know, it's a big party. Everyone's outside on the streets drinking, and we're like, no, we're gonna prepare. We go back, we watch some YouTube videos, we're doing our research. Like, all right, how do we do this?
Stretching, warming up.
Exactly. Drinking some raw eggs. But yeah, so we like make a whole plan, and then we go out the next morning. There's because it's just through the city streets, through this old Spanish town. It's really crazy. So there's just like buildings on both sides, and then at the intersections they put up just wood barriers, and that's where all the people stand and watch from. But there's also screens all over the buildings showing like highlights of you know, previous years or previous days, because I think it's a 7-day festival. And the highlights means, you know, people getting hit by the bulls. that's the highlights. And so we go out there, we find our spot. We learned from our research that we should try to get at like the top of a hill so we can see the bulls coming, and try to get on the inside of a corner, because the bulls are big. They take the corners wide. So so we find our spot, and it's packed. We're like pushing through people like it's like a concert or something. It's crazy how packed it is. And we're like, there's no way this is happening. Like, how the bulls aren't going to fit anywhere. The people can't run. But then like 5 minutes before or so, the screens start counting down, and I think about 5 minutes before, everyone just leaves, and we're like, do they know something we don't? This is more scary. Like, why is everyone leaving? And then we're like kind of alone for a second, and then everyone starts singing this like chant, this traditional song, I think. Mm-hmm. And then we see a group of the like real Spanish guys who you can tell do it every year and are like waiting for this all year long. They come walking up, and everyone's in there like those white shirts, white pants with the red belt and the red bandana. And they come walking up and find their spots. And I guess what I learned later is they all pray at the shrine to San Fermin, and then find their spots right before it starts. And then once they find their spots, there's like we see some people, we see some American guys that we're talking to, like, you guys are doing it too? They're like, yeah, and they're like going over to find another spot, and we're like, all right, hopefully we see you at the end. Like, hopefully. And then we see a bunch of cops and paramedics start coming out, and they start pulling out anyone they think won't be able to handle it. So some people have been partying all night long and are still drunk, and they pull them out. There was a lady with a purse, and they pulled her out. Like, you're not allowed to have anything. The worst was there's one lady who was bawling, and I think she was speaking English. I don't know, she might have been British, or I don't remember. But anyway, she's bawling, and her I think husband or boyfriend or something's there, and she's like, "You're making me do this. I don't want to do this." He's like, "I'm not making you. You can leave." She's like, "No, you're making me." And then the cops grab her and pull her out. But then, anyway, so then we get down to it, like, there gets like less than a minute left. They all start doing this crazy chant song again, and like you can just feel the tension. Like, everyone's jumping up and down and chanting, and I don't know any of the words, but I'm still joining in and jumping and humming basically. And then a rocket goes off. First the countdown starts 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then a rocket goes off, and that means the gates are open to let the bulls out. Yeah. So that's when it really gets intense. And then you hear another rocket, and that means all the bulls are out.
Jeez.
And then we're standing there. We're pretty close to the beginning, but not right at it. So we didn't see them open. But then we just see this mass of people, and behind them a row of, I think it's 12 bulls. Because they have 6 that fight at night, and then 6 other ones that kind of lead them and go with them. And so, yeah, we just see like 12 bulls following this just massive people running away. And we're like, oh, shit, here they come. And we're getting all pumped up. And then as soon as the massive people get there, we just start running. And it's one of those things. I have no fucking idea. It could have been 20 feet. It could have been like half a mile. I have no idea how far I ran. You just run, and then all of a sudden you're slammed up against the side by a group of people. And I had I think 2 people in front of me. So one on me and one in front of him. And then the bulls come running by. And even though they're way closer than they ever were when I was running, I felt way safer because I had 2 people between me. I'm like, these horns can't get through 3 people. I'm fine.
Run just in case. Take him.
Yeah, exactly. Push him out of the way. And then the bulls pass. The people in front of me kind of leave. Some chase the bulls. A lot of the people, because they're running them to the stadium. So a lot of people follow the bulls, and me and my friend come off, and we find each other and we look at each other. We're like, should we follow them? Like run after them, go to the stadium, and we're like, yeah, let's go. And then we hear from the crowd, uno tortoro, which means one more bull. And we're like, what? One more bull? And we're looking around, and we like look at each other, and we're just like, all right, fuck it, and we just sprint like as fast as we can down this track. I mean, the whole thing, it's not that long. It's probably a mile and a half or so. Yeah, I think it's like 2 to 3 kilometers. So yeah, like a mile and a half. We get to, we like each corner we get to, we like stop, look behind us, no bull, okay, run again. And then we finally get to the stadium, and we come into the stadium, and you're down on the floor where all the, it's all dirt floor. It's where the bulls fight at night. And the stands are packed. And there's screens all over. So we're like, oh, everyone's here to, watch the race on the screens. And so again, they're showing replays. They're showing people getting just gored. And we end up finding out what happened with the uno tortoro, the one more bull, was it came out, immediately slammed someone into the wall, just straight out of the gate, and then went back into the gate. He's like, fuck this, I'm done. I got my kill for the day. I'm good.
That's intense.
It was really intense. And then we find the other American dudes we saw at the beginning. We're like, oh, you guys made it too. Yeah, this is awesome. And they're like, all right, let's get out of here. And then the screens start counting down 5, 4, 3. We're like, what the fuck? And they let out what they call a baby bull. It's still like 5 feet, like half a ton, but it's not a full-sized bull. And it has caps on its horn, but they just let it out into the ring, and people just try to fuck with it, and it slams them. It's crazy. Me and my friend are watching. It's like, what the fuck? People just run up and try to tap it on the nose with a rolled up newspaper or something, and then just throws them in the air. And its horns aren't gonna stab you, but that's still gonna hurt.
Yeah.
And so we jump up against the side, and then we're watching this and watching people get hit, and we're like, all right, fuck this. And we try to jump over the side of the railing, and there's a cop behind us who pushes us back in, and he's like, no. You chose this, you idiots. You stay in there. And so then finally the bulls go, but they try to corral the bull back in. That's how they get it out of there. They corral it back into the gate, and then the countdown starts again, and that's when we bail. We're like, nope, done. That was enough.
Man.
But yeah, it was a fucking crazy experience.
That's insane.
Yeah, really cool. And the cool thing about it was I kind of thought it's pretty well known around the world. So you kind of expect it to be a super touristy thing, but it wasn't at all. It was super Spanish. Almost everyone we met there was Spanish. There were, like I said, a few American guys we met, a few tourists, but almost everyone was Spanish, which was really cool to have a real cultural experience like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would have expected like you said, a bunch of tourists there, foreigners. Yeah, that's cool. That's awesome. That's a great story.
It was really crazy. I've had to tell it a lot, so I've gotten it kind of down now.
I mean, I don't know if you saw me. I was like
eating your popcorn.
I was trying to calm down the nerves over here.
Yeah, gotcha. Good. I'm glad it was tense.
Oh man. All right, Mike, we're getting to the end here. Before we go, do you have any advice for people that, may be either struggling to figure out what they want to do with their life, or are in a situation kind of like yourself where they're kind of realizing that they're not fulfilled in what they're doing. Do you have any advice for someone who may be going through something like that?
Yeah. I mean, the first, and I know at this point it's pretty cliche, but it's just, you just got to keep trying, that's the biggest thing. You just keep pushing it. Like I said, I applied probably to a couple hundred jobs like this before I got this one.
Yeah.
And it took quitting my job and volunteering in another country, and, not making money for a while to finally get it. But yeah, I think it just takes that. And I think do a lot of research on what you want to do. See really how to do it. I know you hear like in these kind of things with like celebrities and stuff, they always say, "Oh, you just got to try and you'll get it." And it's like, that's not the real world. But if you, if you're smart, if you think about it, if you really do your research and try and make it work, you can get something. You might not be some super famous person or have your perfect dream job, but you can get something that at least you are happy with and makes you feel fulfilled and you makes your life more interesting.
Oh, totally. Sweet. Mike, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you, man. It was a great experience.
Yeah, dude, this is fun. Are you open and okay with if someone is interested in what you're doing or wanted to ask you more questions, would you be okay, opening up a line of communication, whether it be email, Instagram, whatever, for someone to do that?
For sure. Probably Instagram is the best. Let me remember what my my name is. Yeah, so it's just Mike, MIKE _ DePinto, DEPINTO.
Sweet, and I will put that when this comes out in the description as well. If anybody would like to talk to him, ask more about what he does, or has similar interests in that field, so they can reach out to you.
Awesome, sounds good.
Sweet, Mike. One more cheers before we go. Thank you.
Of course. Cheers. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.
Of course, and we'll be talking soon.
For sure.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for tuning into Chase Stories Chats. If you enjoyed and want to find more, follow along at Chase Stories on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and let me know what you thought of the chat. And if you'd like to be involved, please reach out through chasestories.com.